Hey, Jeff from PrintNinja here again. Today we're going to look at another deep dive of book anatomy. And we're going to pull apart what makes up a beautiful book like this, 50 Years of Text Games by Aaron Reed, a PrintNinja customer, and this is straight out of our PrintNinja library. We keep a library over here of all the physical copies of our books that we've printed, and we're going to look at some of the things that make this one unique and special. In fact, we're going to cover 4 specific things about Aaron's project here. We're going to look at the difference between embossing and debossing. We're going to look at deluxe features like that faux leather cover, and then we're going to look at a very hidden specialty feature on here that's even more custom than usual, and we're going to answer the question, what in the heck is split binding? Let's start off by examining the book itself, 50 Years of Text Games by Aaron Reed. It's a beautiful slipcase we have here. Let's take off the slipcase and look at the book inside. In fact, we have 2 books inside. So what Aaron has done here is he's got his base book, the 50 Years of Text Games, and then he's got a perfect bound book included in it, further explorations of text games. So I'm presuming this was from a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding campaign, and we had a deluxe edition here, and then this would be an added specialty feature included with it, along with the slipcase. So you could have a base book, and then you can include a bunch of specialty features on top of that base book to make it a deluxe edition. And what we have here, including the deluxe faux leather black cover, if you can see the light there, we also have some embossing coming up and down the cover here. But I said that incorrectly. It's not actually embossing, it's debossing. And I'm going to tell you the difference between embossing and debossing. For a hardcover book like this, it's always going to be debossing. And it's a blind deboss here, which means there's no added color that's going to differentiate the design. It is just the design itself stamped into the rigid board of the case-bound book. So embossing would be that if the design is pushed out from underneath the cover, which you do for something like a perfect bound book that had a soft cover to it, but a deboss is when it gets pushed down into a rigid cover like a case-bound book. And so that's really the primary difference. The execution of it can be the same in terms of the design and how to utilize it, but embosses go from behind and push out. You can feel it. Debossing pushes down and goes in. You can feel that as well. The relief is either going to be on the surface or on the back side of the image. With a rigid cover, you don't feel the backside because it gets obscured by the board on the backside, but you feel it on the surface here, and you can see the way the light hits it in the difference. We also have some beautiful silver foil stamping here on the cover and on the spine. Love that, beautiful treatment there. Blank cover on the back, but we also have some added special features you might have seen here. We have a green ribbon bookmark, and we have the hidden specialty feature that I mentioned, which is very cool here, is these head and tail bands. Now, what is a head and tail band? Head and tail bands are these little pieces of fabric that you can see on a book that kind of obscure the binding and hide the stitching aspect of the book when it's all put together. Now, these are green to match that ribbon bookmark. Very cool. So here's the ribbon bookmark, and that ribbon bookmark and the green head and tail bands, I should say, are green because they're matching green of the end sheets here and here, which is, mimicking that green display you'd get on those old classic text games. The rest of the book is completely black and white, which is smart because Aaron's got a 600+ page book here, which would be very expensive to print full color. So by doing it in black and white, he saved himself a lot of money. But back to those head and tail bands. Now, this would be the head tail band, and that would be the tail head and tail band. So the head being top and the tail being the bottom. Typically, the head and tail band is a standard colorization. It's for us, a red and yellow stripe. And if you look on any case-bound book, you're likely to see those head and tail bands. When it gets extra fancy is when you customize those head and tail bands to match something else on the project. In this case, the green of the ribbon bookmark and the end sheets. And unifying all these elements together in a really beautiful way. So well done, Aaron, on those choices. So we covered embossing and debossing. We covered things like faux leather covers, which of course you can get in a variety of colors. In fact, we have a sample packet that we send out that shows about 10 to 12 different colors that you can get for faux leather, but there are many more options outside of that that you can customize for your project. And we talked about the head and tail bands being a custom feature. But now, what in the world is split binding? So, split binding is not anything to do with this book by itself. It is to do with this book and this book. So what we have here are a softcover edition and a hardcover edition. When you order one quantity of your print run and you split the quantity with two different constructions of the final product, most commonly between a perfect bound softcover and a case bound hardcover. So you would order for, say, 1,000 copies in total, and then you'd have the standard edition be the softcover, and say you have 800 of those, and then you'd have 200 of the deluxe hardcover. Now, why would you want to do it that way? Why wouldn't you just order two different quantities of a perfect bound book and a hardcover book? And the answer is simple. It is savings. Excellent cost savings doing it this way. Now, there's only one way that that works, and that is if the interior guts are exactly the same, which they are here. So what Aaron's got here is the softcover edition. Let's take a look. That's the first page, 50 Years of Text Games. Let's take a look at the last page, about the author. Okay, so first page of the hardcover edition after the end sheets. 50 Years of Text Games, last page after the end sheets, about the author. So when they printed the interiors of this book, they printed all at the same time, all one production run, which, considering this is the bulk of the printing, that's where the bulk of your costs go. So when they went to bind this project, then they only had to produce the covers for a portion of the softcover and the covers for a portion of the hardcover. So you don't have those startup costs associated with an entire print run of two different binding types. You only have one startup cost, and saves you a lot of money. Smart way to do a deluxe edition for something that's going for a crowdfunding campaign that you can offer at a premium price. And then you can even number it to make it more exclusive, which I believe Aaron has done here. Yes, so Aaron has done that here. At the bottom, there is numbering, which is actually a foil stamp process that gets applied, and it triggers one number at a time as it goes through the process there. You can offer something truly deluxe to your customers and give them something unique and special in limited quantities, and it isn't going to cost you an arm and a leg. Thanks a lot. Hope you learned something. See you next time.